Okay, so some more factoring techniques we're going to talk about. And again, these should all be reviewed. You should have seen these in your previous math classes. Alright, so the next factoring technique we're going to talk about is general factoring, which what I like to call it is slide and divide, which there are so many ways to general factor. Okay, so whichever way you like to factor, you do it that way. Okay, I prefer slide and divide, but if you don't like this way, you don't have to do it this way. Okay, if your teacher in your previous class taught you a way that you prefer, then do it that way. Okay, but I'm going to teach you guys slide and divide. Okay, so first of all, I need to know what the A, B, and C are, which in standard form, we have ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, this is standard form of a quadratic. Now, we know to use general factoring. First of all, the reason why I know I'm going to be using general factoring is because I have 3 terms. If you have 3 terms, general factoring is the only kind of factoring you can do. Okay, if you have 2 terms and you're subtracting, one of the options is a difference of 2 squares. Now, we're going to learn some other techniques that have 2 terms and subtract, but one of the techniques you can use is a difference of 2 squares. So if you see 3 terms, you will be using general factoring if you can factor. Okay, so this one, you must have 3 terms in order to do it, which I have 1, 2, 3, so I'm good to go. Alright, so I'm going to label the A, B, and C real quickly. So my A is the number in front of the x squared, which is a 2. My B is the number in front of the x, which is a 3. And my C is the number without the x, which is negative 5. Okay. I will make it work. Alright, so when we factor, we start by sliding, which we always slide the A. Okay, I'm going to slide the A. So we're sliding the A. And whatever we slide is what we divide by. So I'm sliding the A to the negative 5, which I'll explain that in a moment. Okay, but we cannot forget about the dividing part. This is the part that a lot of my students forget. So in my final answer, it's going to look like this, 2 parentheses. At the very end, we're going to be dividing in each of these parentheses by what we slid over, which was the 2, or our A value. So we slide A, and then we divide by A. Okay, so this is the divide part. So we divide A. Okay, but anyway, so we slide the 2 to the negative 5s, and when we slide it, what we're doing is multiplying. Okay, so I'm going to multiply my A to my C. Okay, so that's the first step. We're going to be multiplying our A and our C. So 2 times negative 5 gives me a negative 10. Okay, so we slide the 2 over the negative 5, we get negative 10, and eventually we will be dividing by that. And what we do, you guys, we find 2 numbers that multiply to be A times C and add to be B. Okay, which my B is the 3. Okay, guys, and these must be the same exact number. So I need 2 things that multiply to be negative 10 and add to be 3. Holy hot dog, you guys are so smart. You're correct. This would be 5 and negative 2. So 5 and negative 2 and 5 and negative 2. So again, you guys, these must be the same values. Okay? Now, whatever we put in these little lines I have here, we're going to be moving into our parentheses, which your parentheses will always have x's in them. So we start with the x, and then we slide these values into the parentheses. So since this is a positive 5, I'm going to write plus 5. And since this is a negative 2, this time I'll write minus 2. Okay, now, after we do this, we have to reduce down our parentheses. So the next phase is to reduce. Reduce your parentheses down, which I'm going to do that over here. Okay, so I cannot reduce down 5 over 2. 5 over 2 is just 5 halves. Okay, now, typically when we factor, you guys, we usually don't leave a fraction in our parentheses. This is not wrong, okay, but usually we don't see fractions in factored form. So there's a way around that. What we can do, we can move this 2 in front of the x, and it means the same thing. So I'm going to write this as 2x plus, and what's left over after I slide the 2 over here is just my 5. So it'll be 2x plus 5. Okay, so this means the same thing as that. Okay, And then this one, I can reduce this one down. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1, so it'll be minus 1. And that would be my final answer, you guys. So 2x plus 5 times x minus 1. And we are donezo with that. Awesome. Okay, so if you think you have a handle on slide and divide, go ahead and try example 4 on your own. If you need a watch, go ahead and do that as well. So let's start by identifying our A, B, and C. And if you see here, I have 3 terms, which means a possible factoring technique is to do slide and divide. Okay, so my A is 3, the number in front of the x squared. My B is the number in front of the x, which is 11. And my C is the number without the x, which is negative 20. Alrighty, let's start sliding and dividing. So I'm going to slide my A over, which my A is a 3. So we slide A. Okay, and eventually we're going to divide by that. And I'm going to write it over here, you guys, to make sure I have enough space. So our parentheses will always have an x in them. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the x's in there. Okay, eventually we're going to divide by A. So I slid A over, which the A was the 3. And now we divide by A over here. So we divide, slide and divide. Okay, so let's keep going. So I'm going to slide A over to C. 8 times C, so 3 times negative 20 will give me a negative 60. So I'm trying to find 2 numbers that multiply to be A times C, which is what we just did. 3 times negative 20, which is negative 60. But then I'm also trying to find 2 numbers that add to be B, which my B is 11. Okay, so let's think about it. We need 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 60 and add to be 11. Let's think. Holy hot dog, you guys are so smart. It would be 15 and negative 4. So we're going to have 15 and negative 4. All right, 15 times negative 4 equals negative 60, and 15 plus negative 4 gives me 11. Guys, and if you ever are multiplying and get a negative, one of these should be positive and one should be negative, okay? Because a positive times a negative is a negative. Now, if this was a positive, either both are positive, because a positive times a positive is a positive, or both are negative, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're multiplying to get a negative, one should be positive and one should be negative. Okay, but anyways, after I find 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 60 and add to be 11, I move these numbers into my parentheses. So I have a positive 15, so it'll be plus 15. And I have a negative 4, so it'll be minus 4. Okay, my next step is to reduce these down. Okay, which I can reduce down 15 thirds. 15 divided by 3 is 5, so it'll be x plus 5. Now over here, I cannot reduce this down. Okay, 4 over 3 doesn't reduce. Okay, but remember, we don't really like fractions in our parentheses when we're in factored form. So the way we prevent that, I'm going to slide my denominator to the front. Okay, so this will be, my 3 is going to slide to the front. So it'll be 3x, and then what's left over is the minus 4. So it'll be 3x minus 4. So that's my final answer, you guys. It'd be x plus 5 times 3x minus 4. And that is in factored form. Holy hot dog, you guys. That's it.